This video is going to explain how to complete these past paper questions from the topic food availability and selection. Specifically, we are going to be assessing your knowledge and understanding of staple foods, the migration of cultural groups to Australia, and technological developments. So you'll notice that this response is divided into three parts, part A, B, and C. Please make sure that you are writing your responses in your food technology exercise book. You take a photo of your responses and you upload them into the boxes that have been provided. Can you please also ensure that you rotate your work so that it is upright to ease for marking? So for the first question, part A, which is out of 4 marks, the verb that you are addressing is explain. Now when you explain, it's important that you are relating cause and effect to show the relationship between two things by using language such as leading to, as a result, therefore. There are lots of different ways that you can address this verb using this language. So the verb is saying to explain, and the question says, explain the impact of staple foods on the food habits of Australians. So when we see this word impact, it is actually alluding to the effect of something, because the impact of something is the effect that it has. So we're looking specifically at staple foods, but looking at how they have an impact on the food habits of Australians. So to answer this question effectively, you need to do a few things. You need to start by defining what a staple food is. And then you would also need to make reference to the staple food of Australia and the fact that our staple food is wheat. And you would also provide information on why that's the staple food. You would also say that this staple food is a major source of energy in the diet. It grows really easily due to our climatic conditions, and it can be processed using technology to produce a range of different products that Australians enjoy every day. These include foods like breads, cereals, pasta, as well as some discretionary foods like cakes, pastries, etc. Now, the impact of this staple food on the food habits of Australians really requires you to talk about the fact that as Australians have this staple food, we do have a steady and a constant food supply. And you would also be mentioning that Australians have a wide and a balanced diet, and wheat products make up one of the breads and cereals food groups that are recommended to be consumed each day. Now, another effect is the fact that a lot of Australians actually have obesity. So 67% of Australian adults are either overweight or obese. And this can be due to the processed staple food that we have access to, like white breads and white cereals and grains. So that could be one of the negative impacts of staple foods in Australia. A positive impact that you could mention is the fact that due to migration, we also have a range of other staple foods that are available, like rice and potatoes and maize, due to cultural migration. So we do have a range of staple foods, but our primary staple food, which is wheat, should be the focus of your response. So that is how you would answer that question. Explain the impact of staple food of the food habits of Australians. So the next question, part B, is worth 8 marks. So you're going to need to write approximately 16 lines to address this in detail and to address it in the detail that it requires. So the verb for this question again is to explain. And I'm not going to go through this in too much detail because you've already addressed this in part A. But you are explaining the impact of immigration patterns on food availability in Australia. So to answer this question effectively, you really need to be providing a brief history of immigration patterns in Australia, starting off with 1788, when Australia was colonised, through to the 1850s, when the gold rush occurred, flowing through to post-World War II, with the migration of a lot of people fleeing war-torn Europe and the different cultures that came over there. Then looking at the 1970s with globalisation, and most recently in the 2000s So you really need to be explaining the immigration patterns and how food has become very diverse due to these migration patterns in Australia. So you need to really be providing a lot of examples of foods that were developed at these times and how that has led to Australia having quite a multicultural cuisine. And the fact that we do have a range of different multicultural food products available to us, not only in supermarkets, but also in food service and catering, restaurants, cafes, etc., food trucks as well. So there is a fair bit to talk about, but these eras are the main ones that you should be addressing, but there are other ones that you might like to address as well in your response. The next question, again, is worth 8 marks, so you should be writing around 16 lines of information to address this question. And the verb again is to explain, which we know means to relate cause and effect, and to talk about the impact, which is the effect. So you are talking about the effect of technological developments on food availability in Australia and how technology has led to a stable food supply and a varied food supply. Even in times when food is not in season, due to technology, food is available to us. So you need to include a range of examples here. And it's important that you are talking about the technological developments that we've covered in our lectures so far. So if we have a look at what those technological developments are, I've just highlighted them at the bottom of this Google Doc. So you need to be talking about the effect of production methods, particularly looking at types of farming and the use of hydroponic farming, as well as the use of LED lights and smart farms. You would also talk about manufacturing techniques and processing techniques. So you could mention here types of food processing like freeze drying and also modified atmosphere packaging that keeps food really available to us all year round, and it makes food last for a long time. You should also be talking about different equipment and different, appliances that have meant that food is available to us consistently. Also methods of storage and distribution, as well as marketplace practices. You could also talk about the impact of, the smartphone and how there are lots and lots of apps like Uber Eats and also HelloFresh, and how they have had such a positive impact on society because a lot of people don't have time and they lack cooking skills. So due to Uber Eats, as well as home delivery of groceries, like Woolworths and Coles do home delivery, due to the internet and smartphones, technology has really increased food availability in Australia. So I hope that this overview really provides you with a good starting point on how you would be able to actually answer these questions. Keep in mind, these are past paper questions, so they have been taken from preliminary exams, and you could expect to see questions like this in your final exam for the subject. All the best with answering these questions, and I look forward to seeing how you produce your responses.